Alright guys, Jeremy Solt here with Banana Hobby. What we're trying to do is we are going to try and show you guys a simple setup to get you started with this F-14 Tomcat from Xfly. Now we know that the airplane comes with a standard elevator setup where your elevators move together and then your ailerons are independent. Now what we suggest is we've got this airplane tested and evaluated out. We have found that the better way is to set up a elevon or taileron setup on the tail, and then have your aileron set up on a separate channel but minimized so you don't have as much aileron because you don't need it. Because the taileron or elevon setup in the back makes it to where you have all the authority you need in all of the directions of the wing sweep. So if you use just the elevator only setup in there, what you're going to see is you're going to see a limited amount of authority on the aileron with the wings back. Okay, so it is flyable, but you're going to get better flight characteristics achieved by doing this setup. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of random different things, and we're going to do little segmented pieces. All right, the next step in this is that you're going to end up removing your tray cover on the belly of the airplane. What you're going to do is pull that up, and then you're going to need to remove your two Y cables that connect both of your elevator servos together that runs all the way up to the front. And so what you're going to do is after you pull that out, you're going to need to run two separate about 18-inch extensions from each servo wire all the way up to the front of the airplane. And so you're just going to literally connect it up, your one elevator, run it all the way up to the front. And then your opposite elevator, you're going to run it all the way up to the front. What that's going to do is that's going to allow you to separate your two elevator options instead of having them wide together to where you cannot make tailerons or elevon on there. And so that is what you need to do, and we're going to show you the front. Okay, what we've done now is we've flipped the airplane over onto its upright position. And now what you've got is you got your two wires ran up front here. Now you can either take the wooden tray out here to run it underneath it and re-glue it back in there. It's kind of a pain to get out, but that is just as easy to do. This is what the wooden tray looks like. Okay, super simple, but you'll have to glue it back in. I was able, in one of the other Tomcats that I have, I was able to fish it through. It was pretty tight, but I still was able to do that. So you could probably do that. Now what you're going to do is, based upon spectrum, you're going to use channel number 1 is throttle, 2 and 3 is going to be either your left side or your right side elevator, so that we can do elevons or tailerons. Your fourth is going to be your rudder, which is equal to your nozzle steering, because this airplane does not have rudder, but your nozzle steering has to equal that. 5 and 6 are going to be either your wing sweep or your ailerons, is how you're going to do this. So if you want your wing sweep to be based upon like a flap setting on using your flap option, go right ahead, you can do that. That's probably what I recommend. So using essentially channel 6 on spectrum as your flaps, and then channel 5 will now become your aileron. Okay, all right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to end up powering this up, and we're going to show you some spectrum stuff. All right guys, so here's the next step. So we've got spectrum on there, and we're going to kind of show you a little bit of transmitter stuff there. So all right, so here we go. So what you're going to do, this is a DX8. So if you have anything different than this, you're going to just have to finagle it and get it to match the similar thing. But we're going to give you at least an idea of what you got to do, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is you're going to set the wing to elevon, tail to normal on this airplane, okay? So now we're going to go back. And what you got to do is when you originally do this, this is what your airplane's going to do, okay? So right now I've got the ailerons in gear, and if you look, I'm flicking the gear, and you get ailerons doing that. Okay, so that's okay. Don't worry about that. But your elevators, or your tailerons, or elevons, whatever you want to call them, okay, they should be moving appropriately. Now, if they are not moving as they should, you're going to go to servo setup. You're going to go to reverse, and you may or may not need to switch either one of these, the right aileron or left aileron, either one of these, okay? So like per se, if this airplane was doing this, so I'm pulling the elevator back for nose up right now, and it's doing that, but yet aileron is doing this. That can be kind of confusing. So again, you go in, and you may need to reverse. Right aileron. We reversed it. Now look, nose up, nose down, left, right, everything's working. And then your ailerons are still doing that, okay? All right, so how do we fix the ailerons doing that? Remember, we told that gear channel is actually where that is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into settings, system setup. Yes, we want to. We're going to go down to channel assign. And what we got to do is we got to change that gear assignment right there, right? So its input is looking for switch A. We're going to select it and then just wiggle your ailerons. Boop. Look at that, it says aileron now, okay? So now we're going to go back. Now watch this. Now you have ailerons working with your tailerons or elevons, okay? Okay, so super duper important. So now is where rates and flight modes are absolutely important on there. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to go, and you already have a switch assigned for your wings. Okay, that should be your flaps. So if they are not where you want them to go, you're going to go to your flap system, and you're going to adjust your flap. I'm going to rotate this, and you're going to adjust them to whatever your range or what you want. Okay, so I'm just rotating that to where I get full extension. Now where I want mid rate, so I'm going to flick it to mid. Okay, now I'm going to mid, and I'm going to rotate this back to where I want it. So if I want right there or wherever, this is where I've chosen to actually put it. Okay, so there we go. So now we're set there. Now for the wings fully retracted. So now you're there, and you select it. Nope. And you just rotate it back to where you're all the way back or all the way forward, wherever you choose your servos to be, okay? All right, so done there. Do not put any kind of elevator travel in there. Your speed, 2 seconds is pretty good, okay? I like them to move pretty fast, but that's just me. But anyway, so now we're going to get to flight modes, okay? So now you got to go into system setup. You're going to go to flight mode setup or F mode setup. And what you're going to do is you're going to select your first switch, and that is what you want to be on your wing sweep. So we're going to flick it, boop, and it's going to recognize that D is that, okay? So we're good to go there. So now what you got to do is you got to back out of here, and you got to go down to trim setup, okay? And you want to make sure that your aileron is flight mode. See that? Flight mode. Elevator, flight mode. Rudder, flight mode. If it's in common, then don't work. You want flight mode, okay? So now we're back there. So now we are exited out of here. Now the next step that you're going to want to do is set up your ailerons need to be less than what they are now. If you look, see how much those are? That is a crazy ton. That'll make this thing into a drill bit. So what you got to do is you go into travel, and which one is it that we're using? Gear, right? So you're going to select it. Rotate this down to about 50. what you're doing is you're making that the servo travel is less. See, look at that now. So even though I'm in high rate, this is still less on the ailerons, so that it's not crazy torquing, because your tailerons or elevons are actually going to be doing most of your aileron, okay? So you need to make sure you turn that down. Okay, so now we're going to back out of that and go to rates. Rates, okay? Aileron, elevator, and your, ooh, I kicked that. Your aileron, elevator, and rudder rates, okay? This is not my transmitter, by the way. So we have to where your rates on this need to go, when your wings go back, you're going to need less rates, okay? And the reason why is because when it becomes smaller, the airplane is easier to rotate. So we need less on there. So right now we got 90% showing on here for wings back. And we're going to take this back to, let's start with about, we're going to start with about 60 on there, okay? Then we're going to go 70 for mid, and then we're going to go 80 on wings out, okay? All right, so this is a little hard holding this in front of the screen like this. I recommend about 30 on your expos, even on all the small ones. 30 does a good number on there. It makes it to where you don't get any effect on the other surfaces. Okay, now we're going to go elevator. Okay, on the elevator, curve is the same, except for this one really doesn't change much when you have wings back or whatnot. I actually recommend that you put this switch on independent for your elevators, okay? So not when your wings go back. You want to be able to give yourself whatever you need for your first flight on there. So I would put your elevator on an independent one. Which one do you use? This guy. This one right here? Yep. Okay, so we're going to switch the switch of his elevator to a different spot. So then we can actually give more as we need to, okay? All right, so, ooh, elevator stick. We don't want elevator stick. We want that to be it. All right, so now, as we pull back on here, we're going to see different changes in there, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to give the most as an option, okay? So we're going to go 100%. And what we're going to do is we're going to, oh, which way is your high and low?
High is up.
High is up?
Yep.
Okay, so I started with high there.
Normal,
all right, so then we're going to go about 75. And then we're going to go 60. No, actually, you know, we're going to raise. So we're going to go 60. We're going to go 80. And what we're going to do is we're going to find out what you like for the airplane. And then you'll adjust all your stuff to that at the end. I don't like book rates. They're never really true. Everybody seems to have their own feel. So that's why I say start with a little bit extra and then go from there. Rudder, since it's only a nose-wheel steering thing, you want to make sure that you, which one switch do you use for rudder?
Upper left one, that guy.
This one? Yeah. See? Okay, so you want to make sure you know that on these smaller airplanes, you can definitely make it to where it goes all over the place with too much, especially with the trailing link gear on the nose. You can make it go a long way. So a little goes a long way on this. So what we're going to do is, for his low rate, it changed again. So on his low rate, we're going to take this down to almost, I think, 40 or 30. So what we're going to do is you're going to look at the airplane, and you're going to see how much it moves, because a little goes a long way. So we're going to go 30 on there. And then we're going to drop this down to about 60. And then obviously we're going to go 100 because we want to see the max. But again, what you got to do is you got to make sure your plastic piece right here is not getting impeded in any way and maxed out. So if you go too far and it ends up hitting it, you're just going to end up making it to where that servo is just overheating from being told to do too much. Okay, so that being said, that's where that is. Again, you're going to need to sub trim this when you get going. Okay, so when you're out there on the runway or wherever you're at, and you need to move that so you can change the steering or make it straight, you're going to have to go to sub trim, rudder, and do whatever you need to do there to make it so it's straight. So while you're taxiing a little bit, so adjust that a little bit. So we're just eyeballing this right now, but we're going to check that when we get at the field. But anyway, that's how that goes. Another thing too is to set up your elevator on the side of the airplane. If you want to hold that for a second. On the side of the airplane, Xfly has been nice enough to put little itty bitty black dots on the side of the fuselage. That is the neutral point for the front of your elevator. Okay? So what we're going to do is, now that we put tailerons on this, we are going to adjust each one of those sides to equal even in there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go into sub trim like we're at. And we're just going to start with the right. We're going to roll until it does something, and we're going to look at the side until we see what we want to see. And so we're going to roll this down. I like to always move it just to make sure there isn't anything sticking to prevent a surface from going where it needs to go. Okay, so we got that one. Now we're going to the other side. And I'm rolling it, and it's going one way. A little more. Okay. There we go. And there we go. So now we've got a fully set up airplane. So we got left, we got right, we got nose up, we got nose down, we got rudder, but you don't need to see that. We got wings back. There we go. Super simple setup. And then the last thing that you need to do is you need to calibrate your ESCs. Okay? And so what we're going to do is throttle cut off, unplug your airplane, throttle up all the way. So if you want to show that over here. Okay, so we're going to hold that over. All right, so throttle's up. I'm plugging in the airplane. Wait for the beeps. Throttle down. Now the ESCs are both tuned to the exact setup of your throttle on there. Do not let this sit fully up longer than just what I showed you, or else you will go into the settings of the ESCs and you could change things, and that is not something that we would cover. And so that's how you set up this airplane. You put your covers back on there. Now again, this has AS3X on there. I am not going to set up and tell you how to set up AS3X. If you need any help with AS3X, you're going to need to look up on YouTube for any of that help. But as far as setting up the actual airplane, that should get you going, and then you should have a great flying airplane. Again, this has been a very fun airplane. I've put it through the ringers, and I've even put one into the ground doing some of the dumbest things I should not have been doing with this airplane, but I did, just for you guys. So anyway, we've learned that the tailerons works better than just standard, so I highly recommend that. Again, we made this video just to help you out. Hopefully it gives you some insight. If you have any questions, hit me up, but this should do it all for you. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy with Banana Hobby. Thanks, Jason, for letting me borrow your airplane for this. I appreciate it, and happy flying, everyone. Thanks.